Hello, everybody! Welcome to a new, hopefully new series on the channel. If people like it, if you like it, make sure to like and comment on the video that you want to see more of this. But I'm always looking for new ways to entertain you, entertain myself, and also assess the general card pool. So what I have done is I am starting something called the Bracket Battle for Arkham. And we're going to be starting with the Treachery cards. We're going to be starting specifically with the Treachery core cards from the core set. So we have 16 cards in a double elimination head-to-head tournament to see what the worst card, the hardest card, or in my opinion, the card I want to draw the least, the card I'm most scared of from the core set. And then my idea is I'm going to take like the top 4 to 8, like probably the top 4 to 6 to 8 of each from each episode, and we're going to see what the hardest treachery across the entire of Arkham is up to this point. So it should be a good time. I was originally going to do single elimination, but then I thought double elimination is just the best way to kind of go about this. So that's what we're doing. A double elimination head-to-head tournament to see what the scariest treachery is in the core set. So I'm going to kind of talk about it as we go. But our first battle, as you can see, is going to be Rotting Remains up against Dissonant Voices. So, Rotting Remains is test brain 3. For each point you fail by, take a horror. A very scary card. Scary for rogues because, you know, their brain value can be very low. Also potentially scary for mystics. If you draw an auto fail on a Rotting Remains, things are really bad. And then we got Dissonant Voices. Put Dissonant Voices into play in your threat area. You cannot play assets, and at the end of the round, discard Dissonant Voices. And I already see people in chat, and I imagine people on YouTube watching this being like, doesn't it depend on the deck? Yes, it does depend on the deck. But I think that there is general sentiment across these cards of where I would rather see me or even my teammates draw these cards, right? That's how I'm kind of looking at it. Like, just a general table sense. Someone draws a Rotting Remains, and you go, oh crap, you're probably dead, right? Like, we've had that actually quite recently with Travis Bryn. We were playing, and Rotting Remains was the scariest card in the encounter deck. Dissonant Voices certainly has the potential to be really bad. You draw it early. You can't play assets or events. You know, that sucks, especially if you draw it early. But if you can draw it like later in the game when you're just like all set up and good to go, Dissonant Voices does like nothing. However, Dissonant Voices can kill you. It can. Like, I've actually been in a situation where I lost the game because of a Dissonant Voices. But I do think that Rotting Remains generally is the scarier card because it's Rotting Remains as a whole kills you. Dissonant Voices is an annoyance. It slows you down. And a lot of the times, unless it's like in like the second turn where you haven't set anything up, Dissonant Voices kind of just does like, it just means, hey, play the game. You know, investigate a little bit, draw some cards, gain some resources, maybe fight the enemy that someone else drew. It can be really bad, but more often than not, it's not that bad. And 3 horror is a lot of horror. And it also, it comes in waves. So like if you draw 1 Rotting Remains, good luck. You're going to be drawing the rest for the other stuff. So, we're going to give the first victory on the first round to Rotting Remains. But remember, this is a double elimination tournament. So Dissonant Voices will have a chance to come back and maybe go against some other people. Okay, so enjoy these commercials while I get the next cards in. Because it'll take me some time. I'm doing this all live, and I thought I'd at least, you know, make some extra cash when we're doing this. Okay. Sweet. All right, match number 2. We have Offer of Peril. You must either draw 2 cards and place 2 doom on the current agenda. This effect can cause the current agenda to advance, or take 2 horror, versus false lead, which is a revelation. If you have no clues, false lead gains surge. If you have 1 or more clues, test book 4, sorry. For each point you fail by, place 1 of your clues on your location. This one is like pretty easy, right? Like this one is pretty chill. It's a pretty chill choice for this one. It's Offer of Power. I'm not even going to go like too much into it. I have seen people take the offer to great success even, and actually like it's been beneficial. It does show up in, spoiler alert, in our good friend City of Archives. It shows up there, and I've seen people actually use it to draw cards because it kind of helps you in the last little part of the game. But the 2 horror is not nothing. You know, it's actually like it can be pretty spooky to just take 2 horror from an encounter card like that. That's like 2/3 of a rotting remains, and you don't have to test for it, so you can't even prevent it. If you have no clues, for false lead, this card does nothing. If you have no clues as the guardian, you're like, okay, this is going to be something else. And then if you have clues, most likely you're the seeker, and you just put your clues down and then suck them back up. You know, it's pretty chill. It's pretty chill. So this one's a pretty easy one that we can go with here. All right. All right. Let's get the next cards in. Okay. This thing is supposed to move. Here, one second. I want to just make sure this is actually... Let's go like that. There we go. Alright. Okay, we got Umoroth's Wrath. This is a Test Brain 5. This is Rotting Remains on, like, fucking steroids. So Test Brain 5. For each point you fail by, you must either choose 1. Choose and discard a card from your hand, or take 1 damage and 1 horror. That's pretty bad. Crypt Chill, Test Brain 4. If you fail, choose and discard 1 asset you control. If you cannot, take 2 damage instead. So let's talk about Umoroth's Wrath first. This card only shows up in 1 scenario, and thank God, because this is probably one of the meanest cards that's ever existed in Arkham, right? Like, that card is just insane. And yeah, you can't even deny existence Umoroth's Wrath anymore because of the change in the FAQ. Because you choose, anytime you choose during an effect like this, it doesn't do it in batches anymore. So you'll actually have to, if you fail by 5, you choose, do I take a damage and a horror or discard a card? Then you do it again and again and again. So you can't even deny it. I mean, Umoroth's Wrath is probably the scariest encounter card in the game. Discarding a card is like the soft part of it. And a lot of people hate discarding cards, right? Like, just discarding 5 cards is like a vacation for this card. That's like the easy mode. You do Umoroth's Wrath, and you're like, everything is peaches. You know, peaches and cream, because I discarded 5 cards from my hand. I'm not just dead. And that is a pretty tough peaches and cream scenario. Crypt Chill, on the other hand, is, I think, also a Scary Treachery. I don't like drawing Crypt Chill. I play around Crypt Chill, as I think most people should be, like, playing around Crypt Chill. You shouldn't just like drop the classic gain a resource, play a Leo DeLuca, gain 2 resources, draw Crypt Chill, discard Leo DeLuca, you know? Like, that's like a classic play pattern that has caught a good number of people, and like playing around Crypt Chill is a spooky, scary skeleton, right? Like, you do want to, especially if you're like playing like big important assets. You kind of have to have some things to prepare for it if Crypt Chill is in the encounter deck. And a poorly timed Crypt Chill can absolutely just ruin your game. Late in the campaign though, like late in the scenario, sorry, Crypt Chill is soft as hell. You know, like, it's scary. It's scary, like, early on, but late in the game, when you have, like, your assets out and you have everything you go, Crypt Chill actually is just a dead draw. it's not that scary in the late game. It's kind of like it's kind of like Dissonant Voices in that, but I do think that generally Crypt Chill is scarier than Dissonant Voices. This one is going to once again go to our good friend the left side, Umoroth's Wrath, though, because that card is a house. Hot take, I think the option to discard cards can arguably make Umoroth's Wrath softer than Rotting Remains. Yeah, definitely. Definitely it can. I don't even think, but I mean, like, that's still, you know, losing 5 cards can be, you know, that's like, I'd rather be dead energy right there. All right, next up, ooh, we got a good one. We got a good one because these cards are actually kind of similar. I think it's going to be, and then we got this one. Okay. We got Frozen in Fear versus the Dreams of Rillia. Revelation. Put Frozen in Fear into play in your threat area. The first time you perform one of the following actions, move, fight, or evade each round, it costs 1 additional action. At the end of your turn, test Brain 3. If you succeed, discard Frozen in Fear. Dreams of Rillia. Put Dreams of Rillia into play in your threat area. You get -1 Brain and -1 Sanity as an action. Test Brain 3. If you succeed, discard Dreams of Rillia. So I think this one's also, like, I think right now, left side, best side. Because I do think Frozen in Fear is going to be my win here for this one. Frozen in Fear is, like, at this point for me now, in the game of Arkham, and it should be for, with other people as well, I think, for, like, if you're deep into the game like I am. I'm Frozen in Fear is probably one of the scariest cards in this core set, right? It takes away a lot more actions than you think, and if it gets on the wrong investigator, that's bad. Even if it gets on your Mystic, who has 5 Brain, you might fail the test, and then suddenly you're like, well, I'm a little bit screwed, you know? Just on Wednesday, I have seen someone, Bryn, draw 2 Frozen in Fears, and it killed him, right? Like, it stopped him dead, because it's so much. And he might have been playing an investigator with low brain, so they kind of just stayed on him forever. He just was desperately pulling himself towards a location that had the map, the area that he put on it. But it just, like, absolutely ruins things. Because now, like, say, for example, you're the fighter who drew this, and you're like a rogue fighter, and you are now down an action because you're fighting a guy, and maybe that guy had a bunch of health. And it's just like throwing things out of whack when it comes to solving problems, and it doesn't just go away. Dreams of Rillia is certainly not like a cakewalk. It's not, I'd say it's on like the softer side in the grand scheme of things, but as D-Scar Packin said in chat, someone else can get rid of it. And just like, if you die to it, like, it'll happen, but it's pretty easy to not die to it if you know the Cthulhu encounter set is in there, the Agents of Cthulhu. Yeah, Frozen in Fear is also one of those things that you play other cards for. Yeah, logical reasoning, alter fate, exactly that. This one's a pretty easy Frozen in Fear win. Congratulations, Frozen in Fear. You get to stay in the winner's bracket for now. Okay, oopsie. Let's see what the next battle is. We have that. Oh, this one's easy. This one's a pretty easy one to get through. All right, we got Locked Door versus Ancient Evil. So Locked Door, Revelation, attached to the location with the most clues and without a locked door attached. The attached location cannot be investigated. As an action, test Fist 4 to break down the door, or Foot 4 to pick the locks. If you succeed, discard Locked Door. Versus Ancient Evils, a classic. Place 1 Doom on the current agenda. This effect can cause the current agenda to advance. Now, this might be surprising, but I'm actually going to pick Locked Door here. I'm just fucking with you, YouTube. I think Ancient Evils is scarier than Locked Door. 90% of the time, Locked Door is easily solved. If it isn't, it's probably a deck issue. Like a deck and investigator issue, because it's also very easy to break down. It also you can cheese the clues off of it. Locked Door is usually just absolutely nothing, right? It's just kind of like, it doesn't do too much. There can be times when it is a problem, But like having two stats that you can work together to get on as a team is pretty good. It's like pretty easy to do, and you can also just like play like Promise of Powers, Inquiring Mind, because there's going to be clues on the location if you need to investigate it. It can certainly like throw some tempo into your deck, but it most of the time doesn't demand any like immediate urgency that's going to cause you to start like falling apart, if that makes sense. It's kind of just it's scary, but not like too scary, you know? Yeah, you can, yeah, it's just like, you can play around it, you can discover the clues, you don't need to investigate. There's a lot of tricks that you can get there. And then also just like punch it down or pick the lock. Easy peasy. This one is going to the first right side win, which is going to go to Ancient Evils. Congratulations, Ancient Evils. Everyone at home is very proud of you. Okay. All right, next battle here, we got Mysterious Chanting versus the Yellow Sign. Mysterious Chanting, place 2 Doom on the nearest cultist enemy. If there are no cultist enemies in play, search the encounter deck and discard power for a cultist enemy and draw it. Shuffle the encounter deck. And the Yellow Sign, test brain 4. If you fail, take 2 horror and search your deck for a madness weakness. Draw that card and shuffle your deck. You know, the Yellow Sign is actually kind of spooky, right? Like a brain 4 and 2 horror and a weakness. That can be pretty rough. It is only in Agents of Haster, so it doesn't show up all the time. But like in Carcosa, where this card is like, you know, there a lot, it can be kind of spooky because there is some madness weaknesses in your deck, and some madness weaknesses can be pretty good. It's just, I know you're not supposed to fail things as Wendy, but I drew the Yellow Sign as her and had to take 4 horror. Oh, I caramba. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Mysterious Chanting, on the other hand, is kind of just like a vacation, you know? You get to draw the cultist that you want most of the time, and if there is a cultist in play that you aren't scared of and you're going to kill it, you just put the Doom on it. It can have times when it like works together with Brotherhood Cultist, right? Like it has those moments where it can really just like just punch you in the face and like take you down. But generally it's pretty much a walk in the park for Mysterious Chanting. I'm actually kind of like happy to see it. And while it can be a good 1-2 punch at certain times, I don't think it's generally a 1-2 punch. And of these 2 cards, I'd rather draw Mysterious Chanting 9 out of 10 times. So with that, another right side victory, as Mysterious Chanting is going to go down into the losers bracket. But we have one more match up here in the winners bracket that we got to talk about. So why don't we dive in and see what that one is, shall we? Okay. No, sorry, we have 2 more on the top one. All right. I think you guys know where this one's going, right? We don't need to dwell too long. Obscuring Fog. Attached to location, limit 1 per location. Attached location gets +2 Shroud. After attached location is successfully investigated to scar Obscuring Fog. Grasping Hands, test foot 3. For each point you fail by, take 1 damage. Yeah. Obscuring Fog is often pointed to as the treachery card that does nothing. It's the card that you draw and you're just like, wow, I didn't draw an encounter card this turn. That's kind of sick. So, you know, that's... I'm going to give this one to Grasping Hands, and I think it should be kind of obvious, because, you know, Grasping Hands is just like actually a scary card because it can kill you. You get this as like someone with low foot and low meat, and you're dead. You're just like, okay, this is gonna get me, and I'm gonna keep drawing it, and it's gonna be, it's not gonna be a good time. All right, so now we are on our final battle in the top bracket, which is going to be this card and this card. And this one's actually, I think, probably one of our most interesting ones in the first bracket. On Wings of Darkness, test foot 4. If you fail, take 1 damage and 1 horror. Then disengage from each non-Nikon enemy engaged with you and move to a central location. Hunting Shadow. Peril. Revelation, you must either spend 1 clue or take 2 damage. So, I'll be honest, both of these cards are kind of spooky, right? Like, I don't think that, like, it's one of those things where, like, I do think I know which one I'm going to choose, but I have to do all the talking because this is a discussion video, so we're going to be doing some talking. But, like, both of them have the potential to be very scary encounter cards. And on the Wings of Darkness, or on Wings of Darkness, at the wrong time is, like, disgustingly bad, right? Like, if you draw it at the wrong time, it's really, really bad. If you draw it at the right time, or you're okay with moving, it's like, it could even be a shortcut. It could take you to the location you need to go to. Then it's kind of sick. But those are the ones that usually end up passing, right? You're like, oh, I can fail this one. I would like to move. And then it's just like, here's an Elder Sign for you, sir. I hope you enjoyed this. So it's one of those things where, like, it can be really good. The damage in horror is like, it can be looked at as pretty minor, but it can slowly add up too. If you draw a second one of these, you're like, how many actions is this thing going to eat from me, right? Like, how many move actions am I going to have to use to get back to where I need to go? Hunting Shadow, on the other hand, I think is actually a pretty spooky encounter card the majority of the time. Because while the spend a clue is designed around the scenario, like, the spending a clue, it's not like, we never see this card show up in a scenario where if you draw it, you can be locked out of the scenario, right? It basically just takes away you from achieving more victory in the scenario. Midnight Masks and Threads of Fate, for examples, right? However, a lot of people don't like spending the clues. So you're going to just be choosing, hey, I guess I'm just taking 2 damage, and then you're like looking at the next one you draw, and you're like, I already took 2 damage, but I don't have a clue I can spend because I've already spent them, so I'm taking another 2 damage. And then if you're not the clue getter, this card just reads take 2 damage. It's also just like one of those cards that people will tech for because of just how, like, much damage it can end up bringing towards you, which is like a little, I think, like, Hunting Shadow deserves the respect because it is a tough treachery card. So I'm going to be giving it to Hunting Shadow here. I think both these cards, though, can be the potential to be very spooky. I just think Hunting Shadow is more consistently spooky, if that makes sense. All right, we are on to the first battle of our losers bracket, which means that someone here is going to be eliminated. We're going to see the end of one of these cards, and the other one's going to have a chance to claw its way back in. Okay. We have Dissonant Voices versus False Lead. So Dissonant Voices, again, stops you from playing assets and events, and False Lead is going to put clues on your location. I think this one's pretty easy. I think we can, like, lock one of these up as a winner and not worry about it too much. And that one is going to be False Lead's gone. Dissonant Voices, for me, can do more than False Lead. I've never seen False Lead, like, actually impact my game state. My ability to get clues is usually not phased by this, and 9 out of 10 times this card actually just does nothing, and when it does do something, I pass the test. So for me, I would rather draw False Lead over Dissonant Voices, even if I had clues. So I'm going to be giving this one to Dissonant Voices here. Because Dissonant Voices has actually caused me to die. False Leads has just been a little thorn in my side. All right. Ooh, interesting. This is a tough one. I need to think about this one. We have Crypt Chill and Dreams of Rillia. So Crypt Chill, test brain 4, discard an asset or take 2 damage if you can't. And then -1 brain and -1 sanity on Dreams of Rillia, and someone can test brain 3. Okay. This is a tough one. Because I do think that, like I go back to earlier, I play around Crypt Chill more than I play around Dreams of Rillia, but that's just because Crypt Chill shows up in more scenarios. Dreams of Rillia is a scary card, though. The -1 sanity can be really bad for certain investigators. Dreams of Rillia also can be cleaned up by someone else. And if you might be saying, but what if you're the mystic? And you just like... What if you're the mystic and you get this? You just pass the test because you have 4 brain now and you just commit something to it. Crypt is very easy to plan for, and a lot of the time Crypt just does nothing. My only experience with dreams was being Dexter with occult scraps in hand and having 2 dreams. I think I'm gonna give the slight edge to Crypt Chill for this one. But I think it's very slight. It's like this. It's just. I think Crypt Chill can. I've dreaded Crypt Chill when I've seen it more consistently than I've dreaded Dreams of Rillia when I see it. A lot of the times with Dreams of Rillia, I kind of just like ignore it. You know, I'm kind of just like that's that's okay. I'll just hold this for everybody because I don't need the brain and I don't need the sanity, right? And with Crypt Chill, yes, that can happen, but my gut is telling me Crypt Chill is giving me a bit more dread, but it's like by a hair. It's a very close match. This one was tough. Okay. Let's keep this going with a match I know everybody is very excited to see here, which is everybody's favorite. The match of the century. Oh, sorry. I see what's happening. 1 second. I know what's going on. Here, 1 second. Boom. Okay. Locked Door and Mysterious Chanting. So we're still in the loser's bracket if you didn't pick that up. But Locked Door, it cannot be investigated. You can break it down. Mysterious Chanting places 2 doom on the nearest cultist or spawns a cultist. This one's tough. Because, like, they're both soft the majority of the time, right? They're both, like, on the softer side. So let's, like, look at, like, the general worst-case scenario for each of them, right? You have your fighter drew a big enemy. And there is... Someone drew this, and now the doom is going to cause you to advance. That's a pretty big, like, common worst-case scenario. Like, you can go further. The absolute worst case is killing you on the train. But I'm not going to go that worst-case scenario. I'm going to go, like, a more general worst-case scenario. And then we got Locked Door. Its worst-case scenario is your Kluver has to move. I mean, it's, like, the only location left, and you have everyone as 1 fist and foot. Most of the time, Locked Door is just kind of an annoyance, right? I'm happy to draw both of these cards, so I don't think they're going to be going... Sorry, my wife's texting me. I don't think they're going to be that much... they're, like, going to last that much longer. But I do think that the worst case for Mysterious Chanting is, like, slightly worse than Locked Door. So, sorry, Locked Door, you are not going to be making it out. You know, Dreams of Rillia, it could have gone farther if it had a different, if it had a different matchup. But it went against, Frozen in Fear and then Crypt Chill. So, poor Dreams of Rillia didn't even make it out of the lowest bracket. But that's its fault. That's its fault. Okay. Last match of the losers bracket for right now, and then we're going back up to the top. And this one is also pretty dang easy. Because we have a card that I said I am happy to draw. Obscuring Fog versus On Wings of Darkness, which I said lost to one. It's a banger. So this one is On Wings of Darkness is going to Night Gaunt its way, try to get back into the top, as it's going to go here and beat Obscuring Fog. Nice and easy. Obscuring Fog is probably the softest treachery card that I can think of in this batch of 16, which is ultimately, like, actually, I think a good thing for the game. I think Obscuring Fog is very good for the game, because there are times when Obscuring Fog can do something spooky, but like 99% of the time, I want to draw an Obscuring Fog over any other encounter card in the deck. So, yeah. All right. I'll just take a little break from this as we can show how the bracket's going. So, as we see, these are our top 8 from the winner's bracket, as we're going to see how they go. And then the loser's bracket is continuing down here with False Lead, Dreams of Rillia, Locked Door, and Obscuring Fog currently out for the count. So it's double elimination, and those two, they lost twice. So let's keep it going with the next one here, which we have in a second. I'll get on here. Okay. We have Rotting Remains, Test Brain 3 for each point you fail by, take a horror, versus Offer of Power. You must either draw 2 cards and place 2 Doom on the current agenda, or take 2 horror. This one's really interesting, isn't it? This is a really interesting one. They're kind of like friends, you know? They're kind of friends. Rotting Remains, you have to test for it. So you have a chance of not taking any horror, you know? Offer of Power generally just deals you 2 horror. So it's like you failed this by 2. This is interesting. Offers also peril, so can't help with it. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't change too much for me on that, because, like, I mean, it does apparently stop you from, like, soaking with Tetsuo, which is crazy. That seems like a weird rule that the designers are even like, wait a minute. Apparently that's how it works. I mean, like, Offer of Power can never actually kill you, though, right? Like, Offer of Power can actually never kill an investigator. It can cause the investigators to lose, but it can never kill you. They're so similar. They're so similar. This one's tough. My gut says of these two, I don't know. It depends on the day. This is a tough matchup. These are 2 titans of industry going head-to-head at each other in the bracket battle episode 1. And they're making me realize that this is tough. I think... I think of the 2, I think I gotta drop it on Offer of Power. I think it's just slightly edges us out, you know? It's just like a static 2 horror, you can't do anything about it. Like, Rotting Remains is gonna have to claw its way back out of the loser bracket for this. That's why we have double elimination, remember? But, wow. It is, I mean, like, 2 horror, but I mean, like, yeah, I just have to give it this slight edge, because there's a chance. Rotting Remains could potentially deal you only 1 horror. It can potentially deal you 0. Offer of Power generally is just 2 horror. This is a tough one. Rotting Remains also is more likely to extend resources, but they're very similar. But I think just like a flat, like, pretty much always 2 is scarier than a potential 0, you know? Interesting. I didn't think that. I thought Rotting Remains would have a clear course to the end. Okay. Umoroth's Wrath. This is the super rotting remains. Test brain 5. For each point you fail by, you must either choose one. Choose and discard a card from your hand or take a damage in a horror. Put Frozen in Fear into play in your threat area the first time you perform one of the following actions. Move, fight, or evade each round to cost an additional action. At your turn, test brain 3. If you succeed, discard Frozen in Fear. 2 more bangers. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised. We're in the winner's bracket right now. So, like, things are hitting hard. I mean, Umoroth's Wrath. It fucks, you know? Like, it brings the noise. I mean, like, over the entirety of Arkham, Frozen in Fear is going to hurt you more. Right? But if I'm looking at just these 2 cards, they're like, draw one of them. And let's put myself in a situation where I am, I don't know, let's just say Jenny Barnes. Jenny Barnes is like the perfect tester for all of these. Alright, so I'm Jenny Barnes. I have, say, we'll save 5 cards in hand and full soak, so I can do everything. I can soak for 7 and 7. If I fail, I take 5 and 5 or discard my full hand. I think Umoroth's Wrath is scarier, right? I think Umoroth's Wrath is generally scary because I can auto-fail on... I mean, like, I think Frozen in Fear is really scary, but I think Umoroth's Wrath is going to continue to kind of just, like, rain havoc over here a bit. The card is very scary. Like, the card... Umoroth's Wrath is a very scary card. It's, like... I mean, it has no limit. You cannot deny it anymore. We're picking this... So the scarier card gets through. The card we want to draw gets to, like, is going to be sent down into the loser's bracket. Yeah, Umoroth's Wrath is a house. Like, that card, like, it'll kill you. It'll kill you, and it'll laugh while doing it, which is the scariest thing, because it's kind of a psychopath. What this list is telling me is I should play Gumption more. Gumption's a pretty good card. Yeah, Gumption's pretty sick. Alright. We got Ancient Evils up against the Yellow Sign. Alright. Is that time where I get YouTube to yell at me again? Because I'd rather draw Ancient Evils like 90% of the time here. Yeah. What are those cool pictures in between slides? Well, those are from my sponsors. I've got a bunch of sponsors for this series. And I'm hoping to pick up a few more, but they're just they're just helping support the channel. It's like, yeah, for me, like, I know YouTube doesn't like when I say this. And hi, YouTube, I love you guys. But I actually don't think that Ancient Evils doesn't scare me that much anymore because it actually, like, doesn't cause me to have to deal with an issue. Yellow Sign, it's going to deal me 2 horror, and I have to draw a weakness for my deck. So I think I'm going to give it to Yellow Sign. I would rather draw Ancient Evils over the Yellow Sign here. Who would have thought? Guess what scares me? The cards that just deal you damage and horror. The things that kill you. And the things that kill you are what scare me the most. Oh, dude, this is another freaking banger. This next match. And this one. Okay. Grasping Hands. Take test foot 3. For each point you fail by, take 1 damage. Hunting Shadow. Peril. You must either spend a clue or take 2 damage. And for the wrong person, like, these are the scariest encounter cards I can imagine drawing. I'm gonna be giving this one to Hunting Shadow. This card, like, kills you and you actually, like, you can play around it, yes. But, like, most of the times, This is like from like the design of Arkham, where it was like in that earlier days when you kind of wanted to build your deck to do a bit of everything, right? In that early Arkham days. Like Roland Banks, he killed an enemy, he gets the clue, no problem, this is fine. He also can like take the damage if he needs to. But in like the Arkham that exists today, where it's about like hyper focusing on what you're doing with a few splash cards, Hunting Shadow, it does not mess around. I've seen Hunting Shadow like take investigators from having 7 health remaining to having 1 health remaining, because they roll in packs. Like Grasping Hands, if you draw 1, you'll draw them all. Grasping Hands, though, I'm not going to talk it down. I think Grasping Hands is a legitimately spooky card. How spooky is it? We'll find out, you know, when we get to the other one. But like with Rotting Remains, you have a chance to beat it. So, but Hunting Shadows, you don't want to give up your clues. Most of the time you don't, you know? And like even as a seeker, you're probably going to be like, I can take one of these. And then you draw the second one again and you're like, I should not have taken that first one. I should have spent that clue. That's somewhere where I've been like many times in this. And I ain't even scared to admit it. I'll admit it and be like, yeah, I've misplayed Hunting Shadow, and I've learned that this card, even as the seeker, can be a problem. And like giving up a clue can put you back a little bit. Not much, but it can put you back from potentially like spawning another cultist in Midnight Masks. So yeah, Hunting Shadow, spooky card. All right, we're back down to the losers bracket. And we have an interesting matchup, but I think I already know which one's going to win this one. Grasping Hands. Test foot 3. For each point you fail by, take 1 damage. And then Dissonant Voices. Cannot play assets or events at the end of the round. Discard Dissonant Voices. Yeah. This is, to me, a pretty easy one. I think that it's going to be Grasping Hands here. Card is just like... Oh, by the way, my apologies if you're red-green colorblind. Maybe I can add an arrow to the next one pointing to who the winner is. Maybe I'll do that. I'll make sure that's in for the next one. So my apologies for that, by the way. Because, I mean, it just looks like this to you. You're just like, they're the same. But yeah. So this one here is I'm going to be going to Grasping Hands. I mean, I am also saying it each time, but I should be aware of that. So my apologies if you are red-green colorblind. But we will. I'll add an arrow to the next one, or at least I'll try to remember. Didn't even notice you were highlighting the winner. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, I think Grasping Hands is just spookier for all the things I've said, and Dissonant Voices can be bad, but most of the time Dissonant Voices just says, hey, progress the game. Okay. Ooh, this one's interesting. And these guys are all in the losers bracket, which means if they're gone, they're gone. That's it for them. All right, we got Ancient Evils. Place a Doom on the current agenda. This effect can cause it to advance. And Crypt Chill. Test Brain 4. If you fail, choose and discard an asset you control. So I play around Crypt Chill. You can play. I do, like, I'll still ward an Ancient Evils sometimes. This one I think is pretty close. But I think generally, Crypt Chill doesn't really do anything, you know? I think it's very close. But a lot of the times, like, later in the campaign, Crypt Chill can do nothing. If I'm having a bad time, like if I'm not playing to positive tempo like a good gamer, Ancient Evils can be very bad, especially late in the scenario. I think of these two cards, most of the time, I think I'd rather draw Crypt Chill for me. Slightly. It's like the slightest bit. Because, like, in most of my decks, I have assets that have uses. But I think most of the time, I'd rather draw Ancient Evils by a hair. I think it's a very close match. And I think I'm going to give this one to Ancient Evils. It's very close, though. It's incredibly close. And if someone says Crypt Chill was their winner here, honestly, much respect. Much respect to you. But I do think it's slightly into Ancient Evil's favor. So that's why it's walking away the winner. Oh, this one's easy. Oh, this is an easy matchup. Don't even need to think that hard. Frozen in Fear, the one that takes away your doubles the first move, fight, or evade action you take each round. And Mysterious Chanting. Place 2 Doom on the nearest cultist or spawn 1. This one's going to go to Frozen in Fear. I do think that Frozen in Fear is an absolute, like, banger of an encounter card. It's very spooky. It slows you down. And even if you have good brain, like I said, I've seen this with Travis. We were playing recently. He had 5 brain, and he failed his first Frozen in Fear, and it ate an extra action. And, like, you might be, like, saying, but Justin, isn't this very comparable to Ancient Evils? And it is, in theory, but, like, in practice, 2 actions is a lot worse. Especially if you need to be moving and, like, doing all these things. As the fighter, 2 actions is a lot worse than having 3 uninterrupted actions, which Ancient Evils has. But yeah, Frozen in Fear to me is the easiest winner of this match. Good job, Frozen in Fear. You're back up, keeping it going. Oh, another fucking banger of a match. Holy hell. All right. So unfortunately, one of these guys is going to get eliminated today. We have Rotting Remains. Test Brain 3. For each point you fail by, take a horror. Is this bracket non-elimination? It's a double elimination. So you have to lose twice to be out of here. And then On Wings of Darkness. Test Foot 4. If you fail, take 1 damage in horror, then disengage from each non-Nigon enemy, engage with and move to a central location. I think this one is also really close. But it's got to be Rotting Remains, right? I think Rotting Remains is just a general scarier card. I think if you look at, like, the worst case for each, I think that On Wings of Darkness is consistently easier, but I think that to give it its respect, I think On Wings of Darkness is a scarier encounter card on its worst case scenario. Yeah, like 3 horror could kill you, but, like, I think, like, it dragging you away from, like, no, it's not take 1 horror 3 times. It's because there's no choice. It happens in multiple instances. If there is, you have to choose for each point you fail by. If you just fail by, it's just one. It's just going to be 3 horror. But if you had like Umoroth's Wrath, where it's for each point you fail by, choose to discard a card or take a damage in a horror, then it separates into multiple instances for each point you fail by. I don't know how to play either. I'm just lucky. I'm just lucky I know that one. But I mean, like say for example, the worst case of On Wings of Darkness is you have your Seeker draws an enemy, and then you get dragged away as the goon. Like, that's pretty bad. But I do think that most of the time, it's kind of just chill, not bad. Where it, like, steals a move action from you. But I do think Rotting Remains is a bit spookier. What about place 1 Doom on the agenda or take 1 point if you fail by? No, because that's not a choice. Because it's place a Doom on the agenda or take 1 point if you fail by. If it was place 1 Doom on the agenda or for each point you fail by, take a horror or discard a card, then it would be multiple instances of that. Okay. This is Rotting Remains. Congratulations. Okay, we are... Where are we? We're back up to the winner's bracket. If you have no more cards discarded, is it still a choice? Yes, I think it is still a choice. I think it still is. I could be wrong on that, but I think it is still a choice. All right, back up to the top of the winner's bracket here. We got the 4 champions who are still going hard. We have Offer of Power. You must either draw 2 cards and place 2 Doom on the current agenda. This can cause the current agenda to advance or take 2 Horror. Test Brain 5, Umoroth's Wrath. For each point you fail by, you must either choose one. Choose and discard a card from your hand or take a damage and a horror. Dang. So, I have more experience with Offer of Power. So I think then just because of that, it makes me feel like it's easier, right? Because I've played with it. I've probably only played with Umoroth's Wrath like 4 times in recent memory. So I think that, like, if this card just showed up in, like, if I drew Umoroth's Wrath in a custom campaign, I would be like, what the fuck are you thinking? You know? Like, that's how scary the card feels. Right? I mean, like, if you have a lot of cards in your hand, you just discard the cards, right? Like, that's pretty easy. Honestly, I think Umoroth's Wrath is going to take it. I don't see how there's a card that I'd rather just, like, honestly, with Offer of Power, I'd rather just, like, take, I'd rather just take the risk. I'd rather just, like, take the risk of just, like, I'd avoid the risk, right? I would just, like, take 2 horror to avoid the risk of potentially taking more, you know? Devour Below is actually surprisingly not that hard with today's card pool. I mean, Devour Below is not that hard if you just throw Lita into the fucking fire or cheese it, right? But if you're trying to play it like a legitimate Arkham scenario, I mean, you have Umoroth's Wrath in there. And also, like, trying to kill Umoroth, still no easy feat. Alright. Okay. Ooh, this is an interesting one. I think we know who's going to win, though. All right, we got the Yellow Sign and Hunting Shadow. Yellow Sign, Test Brain 4. If you fail, take 2 Horror and search your deck for a Madness weakness. Draw a card and shuffle your deck. Hunting Shadow, you must either spend a clue or take 2 damage. I mean, both spooky cards, but I think I'd rather draw Yellow Sign here most of the time. I do think that just, like, once again, Hunting Shadow just kind of puts a little bit of fear in me when I see the card. Do you play Devour Below with Eric at all? No. I don't like the whatever that one's called. Oh, I'm calling it The Gathering. Night of the Zealot. I'm not big on that one. I don't really enjoy it. Gathering's not fun, and Devour Below is not fun. So it's like only for Midnight Masks. I think I played The Gathering with Eric to kind of teach Eric that part, but yeah, but going back to this, I agree that just like having a test gives you a chance for hope, you know? The Hunting Shadow, I think it's going to edge it out. Because, I mean, once again, you can spend a clue, but most people, they don't. They just take the 2 damage, and then they're like, wait a minute, why did I do that? And you have a chance of Yellow Sign not doing anything, but you're going to lose some sort of progress with Hunting Shadow, which I think is just a testament to how good of a card, how good of a design Hunting Shadow has, right? It shows up in the first scenario of Scarlet Keys, right? Or is it in multiple from Scarlet Keys? Is it in the first? I think it's in the first. Time Roller, 51 months, the Golden Table. Thank you for your Twitch Prime subscription. Much love. Thank you so much. First scenario, yeah. And like that one also, you actually can't run out of clues, but it can really slow you down. Great card. Hunting Shadow is like chef's kiss design. Okay. We are on to match 23 of the bracket. Man, this is going to be long with Dunwich. All right. We have this one. All right, we got Grasping Hands. Test foot 3. For each point you fail by, take a damage. And Ancient Evils. Everyone knows it. Everyone loves it. Place a doom on the current agenda. This effect can cause the current agenda to advance. I mean, I think Grasping Hands is scarier here. But I do think that Ancient Evils put up a good show. But I would rather draw Ancient Evils than Grasping Hands most of the time. Like, yeah, I could be like Keimani and be like, I have 7 foot. I'm incredible, right? But I also could be like Norman Withers and been like, I'm old and fragile, you know, and just get fucking gorped by our Grasping Hands. So I am going to be giving this one to our boy, Grasping Hands, even though it doesn't show up that much. Okay. We are close to being done. The tournament. This is an interesting one. I would love to know everybody's thoughts on this. This is an interesting matchup, okay? We got Frozen in Fear. It takes your, doubles up your first move, fight, or evade each round. You get a test brain 3 at the end of your turn to discard Frozen in Fear. And then we got Rotting Remains. Test brain 3. For each point you fail by, take a horror. This is an interesting one. I think I know which one I would rather draw of the two, but I would love to know what other people watching at home think of this one, because I think this one could go either way depending on the person. It's tough, isn't it? It's a spicy one, and it's gonna be a shame to see one of these guys go. Because, yeah, these are two, as I said, these are two titans of industry. Spicy, spicy, spicy. What beat Frozen in Fear in the first one? Oh, Umoroth's Wrath. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so to get here, Frozen in Fear lost to Umoroth's Wrath. And Rotting Remains lost to Offer of Power. So for me, I think the card I would rather draw is Rotting Remains, which means Frozen in Fear is going to be our winner. Because, yeah, I think that, like, they're both very similar on kind of, like, the surface value of just, it's a brain 3 test, and they both have a negative effect if you cannot pass that brain test, right? Because, like, Frozen in Fear is going to generally eat an action, right? But Rotting Remains is going to, Frozen in Fear always eats an action. It's going to eat a second action if you fail the test. If you fail Rotting Remains, you'll take 3 horror, right? Or like 1 to 3 horror. Frozen in Fear, though, can stay around longer. But you also could, like, I have done it where I've drawn Frozen in Fear and I just don't do those actions, right? So there's like that as well. You can also like play around Frozen in Fear like that and then like commit something to it. However, a lot of people, they tech around Frozen in Fear, but I think a lot of people also generally tech around Rotting Remains. They are from the same encounter set, which just shows how much of a fucking banger this encounter set is, right? Like, what is it? Striking Fear? Absolutely 10 out of 10 encounter set design. Dissonant Voices is also from this one. Just like absolute chef's kiss of card design here. But Rotting Remains, unfortunately, your watch has ended, but you can go rest in peace. And Frozen in Fear is going to be our winner. Also, like, what is everyone's thought when I do Dunish in this? Because Frozen, like, do we include repeats in the bracket? Or do we not? Like, does Rotting Remains get another shot at making its way through a bracket, or should it be left out? Yeah, that's what my thought also was now, but I'm interested what people think. Okay. We are on to a next match here. Okay, Offer of Power and Grasping Hands. So Offer of Power, peril. You must choose to draw 2 cards and place 2 doom on the current agenda or take 2 horror. Grasping Hands. Test foot 3. For each point you fail by, take 1 damage. So Offer of Power lost to Umoroth's Wrath, and Grasping Hands lost to Hunting Shadows to get here. But they have since been, I mean, Offer of Power, this is their first time in the losers bracket. So notably, Offer of Power beat Rotting Remains. Can it beat Grasping Hands too? Because I'll be honest, with Rotting Remains, it was like, it was pretty similar, right? Like, it was like take 2 horror or take up to 3 horror, right? Or take down to 0 horror. I think generally, dude, maybe this is crazy of me, but I think Grasping Hands is a little bit scarier. But I'm not sold on that yet. I think it's by a hair. I just feel like it's a little bit spookier. And I would love to know what other people think. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Because right now, for me, I'd rather draw Offer of Power of these two. But that could just be me being a little bit weird. Just biased in this because he never plays foot boost icons and foot icons in his deck? I'm literally fucking playing Monterey Jack right now. What the hell are you talking about? All right, let's go to Jenny Barnes again. I'm Jenny Barnes, and I draw these cards. I test foot 3. For each point you fail by, take a damage. I think I'm going to follow my gut. I think Grasping Hands is slightly scarier. By, like, the smallest amount. I just think that generally, I don't know. This is a tough one. I think this one really depends on... This one is a lot of investigator dependent as well. But with Jenny Barnes, I think, like, the 2 horror... Yeah, if I don't know. I just feel it. It's just what I feel in my gut. And this video is mostly for fun, so who cares? I'm not going to worry about it too much. Alright, and then we got... I mean, this one's actually quite similar as well to a previous match we just had. See you, Crunchy Cheetos. The yellow sign, Test Brain 4. If you fail, take 2 horror and search your deck for a madness weakness. Draw the card and shuffle your deck. And Frozen in Fear. Put Frozen in Fear and play in your threat area. The first time you perform one of the following actions: move, fire, evade. Costs additional action. And of course, at the end of the round, at your turn, Test Brain 3. If you succeed, discard it. I think this one's also Frozen in Fear. Card's spooky, man. Card's spooky. If Frozen in Fear beats Rotting Remains, I do think that Frozen in Fear beats the yellow sign as well. So Frozen in Fear got here by losing to Umoroth's Wrath, and yellow sign got here losing to Hunting Shadow. So I think it's going to be Frozen in Fear as well. I think card's just, like, kind of spooky. Thank God it's not single elimination, huh? Okay. Can cards meet up for a rematch? Yeah, I believe so. Okay. Yeah, but I don't think it's not going to be like sports where they actually could win. It's because if they won once, they'll probably win twice. All right, so here are our top of the winners bracket. We have Umoroth's Wrath. Test Brain 5. Preach while you fail by, you must either choose one. Choose and discard a card from your hand or take a damage in a horror. Hunting Shadow. Peril. You must either spend a clue or take 2 damage. So, these are our top 2 as you can see here on our winner's bracket. They have not been eliminated yet. They are still fighting and they are going strong. To get here, Umoroth's Wrath beat Cryptchill, Frozen in Fear, Offer of Power. Hunting Shadow has beaten On Wings of Darkness, Grasping Hands, and the Yellow Sign. So, this is an interesting one. I think both cards are scary. I think, like, if I had to draw one of them... Okay, I'm Jenny Barnes. I have 5 cards in hand. We have 5 cards in hand and no damage and horror. I mean, I just choose to draw Hunting Shadow, right? First encounter phase, I think it's still just Hunting Shadow, right? Because... Whew. Do you hate Amnesia too? Yeah, I mean, Amnesia hits hard. I'm looking at, like, so, like, also, like, if you look at it, discarding a card from your... I mean, honestly, I'll be honest. I think that discarding a card from your hand, like, if you fail by 2 and you just discard 2 cards from your hand, that's actually pretty soft for Umoroth's Wrath, right? If you look at it as just, like, the general sense. I would always, if I failed this by 2, right, I would always discard 2 cards from my hand instead of taking 2 damage. It's like not even anything, right? But discarding 5 cards from my hand is a lot different than discarding 2. And I can't control how much I fail by when it comes to Umoroth's Wrath. There's also this thing where, like, Hunting Shadow is common, right? So, like, you have more experience with knowing what it is like. But... yeah, because it is 5 brain. Like, if I fail by 3, I take a damage and a horror and discard 2 cards. That's, to me, like, softer than On Wings of Darkness, right? The soft part of Hunting Shadow is just spend a clue. That's easy. Peasy, lemon, squeezy. If you're the fighter, commit a promise of power to Umoroth's Wrath. Pass the test. 5 brain is a lot, so you need to have, like, big resources to do it. But it is scenario 3. You'll have, like, roughly, I don't know, 10 to 12 experience in your deck. Maybe less? I actually don't even know. I mean, this is really tough for me. Because, like, the numbers on Umoroth's Wrath are bad, right? Like, they're tough. They're tough. Hunting Shadow? I mean, but here's the thing. Like, if Umoroth's Wrath wins this, it's basically just a race to second place. Because Umoroth's Wrath has pretty much beaten everything else that it's faced so far, right? So it's really just depends on, like... I'm basically crowning the winner right now of the whole thing. The only way I could see it is Frozen in Fear beats Hunting Shadow, right? Like, that's the thing, because, like, Frozen in Fear never got a chance. It's interesting. Because if we pull up the bracket, because now we got to look at things, because we actually have our top 4, right? We have our top 4 scariest cards here. Umoroth's Wrath, Hunting Shadow, Grasping Hands, and Frozen in Fear. So now I need to kind of look at it in like the grand big picture of this. Because Umoroth's Wrath beat Frozen in Fear, and it beat Rotting Remains. And Frozen in Fear lost to... And then Frozen in Fear has come up over here. So I guess then, like, what I also need to do in my head, we're probably going to see this match anyway, is Hunting Shadow scarier than Frozen in Fear? I think I would rather... I think we need to kind of look at that match. Because if Frozen in Fear is under Umoroth's Wrath, where does Hunting Shadow sit in relation to that? I think I'd rather draw Hunting Shadow over Frozen in Fear. So then that means Umoroth's Wrath is our winner and is going to win the whole tournament. Because I think it's going to have a rematch in the final, potentially. Congratulations, Umoroth's Wrath. This is probably going to you. And honestly, it's fitting and kind of just makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, but let's go down and finish off our losers bracket, shall we? See who is going to get our ultimate second place. We have Grasping Hands and Frozen in Fear. Grasping Hands, test foot 3. If you for each point fail by take a damage. Frozen in Fear. First time you perform one of the following actions: move, fight, evade each round. It costs an additional action. I think as we continue this going, I do think that I would rather draw Grasping Hands over Frozen in Fear generally. Even though, like, once again, the Grasping Hands beat the Offer of Power, right? I do think that generally, like, the Frozen in Fear has the potential to stay around longer. And it actually slows you down immediately. The damage is bad, but, like, you also just soak it, right? Like, I think it's easier to play around the concept of Grasping Hands than it is to play around the concept of Frozen in Fear, depending on who you are. So this one is going to Frozen in Fear. Okay. Frozen Fear also forces you to pull tokens. I mean, so does Grasping Hands. Forces you to pull a token. Assuming you do them both in one test, right? And Frozen in Fear. All right. Hunting Shadow versus Frozen in Fear. You must either spend a clue or take 2 damage. And Frozen in Fear, which we just talked about. I've already done the math. I think I would rather draw Hunting Shadow over Frozen in Fear generally. So Frozen in Fear is going to be our winner here. And we go to the top 2. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Let me just put this around Frozen in Fear. Congratulations, Frozen in Fear. And then we go to our top 2, which is going to be Umoroth's Wrath and Frozen in Fear. And we've already actually seen this match before. About all the way back over here. Who would have thought this bracket right here, we were actually seeing the final, a preview for the finals, that what's to come. And I do think because we've seen this exact match before, nothing has changed. So in my mind, with all that said, our good friend Umoroth's Wrath is going to walk away as the winner here today, going undefeated and being our champion of the day. Congratulations, Umoroth's Wrath. Spooky card. So our top 4 again were Umoroth's Wrath, Hunting Shadow, Grasping Hands, and Frozen in Fear. Sorry, yeah. Shadow, Frozen, and Fear. Yeah, Grasp Hands, those ones. Looking at the bracket here, give you kind of an example as it goes again, just so you can see it all in action. This was our losers bracket. But this was actually pretty fun. I had a great time doing this. I'm excited to do it for Dunwich and then also for enemies one day. I think it'll be fun to do with enemies. There were actually a lot harder decisions than I thought there were going to be. I thought we would just ride this out. But, so in terms of scariness, it's Umoroth's Wrath is the scariest. Frozen in Fear is the second most scariest. Hunting Shadow, and then Grasping Hands. Poor Rotting Remains died all the way down here, so sucks to suck, Rotting Remains. You freaking blew it. You goddamn blew it. Okay. Well, if you enjoyed watching this and want to see me do it for Dunwich, please let me know in Twitch chat, or if you're watching on YouTube, by liking the video or commenting that you want to see more of this. I enjoyed it, so, you know, I'm not going to be too hard-pressed to do it again. I might even just do it on my own accord. But it does make me happy when I know that my content makes you happy. So please, let me know if this video maybe sparked a little bit of joy. But in the meantime, if you want to support the channel, you can do so by liking, commenting, subscribing on the video, or, you know, by joining our Patreon, which you can find down in the video description. And you can join at our Acolyte tier, which is $3 a month, all the way to our Knights of the Inner Circle, and get some cool perks on the way. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a good one. As always, GG's.